Hi everyone.
G'day.
Welcome to Parkside Online. We are so thankful that you've joined us. And as we chat about friends and the forgotten, we hope that you encounter Jesus.
Yes, definitely. Taking a bit of a risk here, bit of a joke. We're talking about Jesus, we're talking about faith, and someone had once said, we don't talk enough about the real miracle of Jesus, and that is that at the age of 33, he still had 11 close friends. So, and as you said, tonight we are talking about friends and the forgotten. And we're going to just look at the life of Jesus.
Yep.
So we're going to draw some inspiration from the Gospel of Mark, and I'm going to start at chapter 2 and down here at verse 13. And it says, Jesus went out to the lakeshore, so he's walking along the side of the lake from a town called Capernaum, and he taught the crowds that were coming to him. And as he walked along, he saw Levi, son of Alphaeus, sitting at his tax collector's booth. Follow me and be my disciple or be my student, Jesus said. And so he got up and followed him. And later Levi invited Jesus and his disciples or his students back to his home as dinner guests, along with many other tax collectors and disreputable sinners. There were many people of this land among Jesus' followers, of this kind among Jesus' followers. But when the teachers of the religious law saw who they were, when the Pharisees saw him eating with tax collectors and other sinners, they asked his disciples, why does he eat with such scum? Strong words. When he heard this, Jesus told them, healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do. I have come to call not those who think they are righteous, but those who know they are sinners. So that might be the first time you've heard that story. You may have heard that several times before. Just on that quick read through, what stood out to you?
I think just the fact that they were focusing on, well, the Pharisees, I guess, were going, oh no, look at the people Jesus is hanging out with, and they weren't the people that maybe the religious people of the day would normally associate with. You know, I mean, you said that this version used the word scum, or they were disreputable. They didn't have a good reputation. So,
Yeah.
And yet Jesus said, come.
Yeah, even that good old word sinners, which can mean so much, but that's how they get called out here. Yeah, and I think this talks to me a little bit about reputation and interaction here.
Yep.
If we read through, this is very early on in how Mark tells the story of Jesus. He's only had maybe a couple of public things, and already, as you read the story, crowds are following him. People are drawn to him. And yes, there are some people who would call themselves a religious group, but as Mark specifically mentions here, he talks about a lot of people.
Yeah.
People who were regarded as traitors, tax collectors in those days. They were working for a foreign power. They would often help themselves to the taxes, so they'd skim a bit off the top and make a bit more. Very unpleasant, and often worked in partnership with the Roman soldiers of the day. So very unpopular people. And they were considered, as we just read here, scum. And yet these people felt drawn to Jesus. Have you ever had someone or known a friend who people just seem to gather around, people seem drawn to?
Not really a friend that I can think of that draws, crowds of people, but I do know people who, or know of people, once they start speaking, people are like, I want to listen to more of what they've got to say.
Yeah. And for me, there's two things going on there. So number one is, what kind of reputation do I have as a person? And it's not that I want to be obsessed by what people think about me, but do I have a reputation for someone who is welcoming to people, someone who values people, or do I have a reputation as someone who pushes people away? Because even here, crowds are drawn to Jesus, and Yep, some of them may be there just for the entertainment value, but Jesus had a personality to draw people from a wide range of backgrounds,
Yeah.
and they felt like, let's use a word that we use right now. They actually felt safe.
Yeah, like people who other people would, well, like they're talking about here, who would not welcome them anywhere. They were getting fingers pointed at them going, why would he hang out with them? So those kind of people were going, there's something about this man, he's not going to push me away. Or I feel like even in all, in all of my brokenness, that we can, I can still be here. Like it's okay for me to come be near this man and listen.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where I'm coming from, doesn't matter where I'm going to. And I think that's a powerful thing, particularly in the world that we find ourselves in. So many people are looking to either recruit or reject you.
Yep.
Are you part of my perspective, or do I push you away?
Yeah.
And yet, I think what the world needs right now is people who can reach across a divide, who can affirm people's worth without pushing people away, but also without compromise here too. And I think that is the powerful thing. And when we look at this list, Jesus just plunges into this soup of humanity. Like when it talks here about his disciples or his students, just a few moments earlier, Jesus has gone to some, what we would consider middle-aged men working in their family business, and said, look, I want you to come follow me. Now, in the culture of that day, it was often at the age of 13 that you were shoehorned into whatever your career was. Your dad was a carpenter, you're going to be a carpenter, you're 13 now, time to be a man,
you weren't really going to move on from that or change direction.
If you were smart, then they could say, yep, go here. And Jesus said, no, you might feel like you've been left behind. I'm going to bring you with me.
Yeah.
And he walks into a party and says, yep, you might be regarded as scum by some aspects of the community. And he walks into that. And that's a dangerous thing.
Mm-hmm. Especially for like your own reputation, if that's what you cared about more.
Yeah. And yet I think that's what the world needs. People who are saying we are more than just a soundbite, we are more than just a social media statement, that we are people and there is richness in the connection.
Yeah.
And there's something of value in each of you. Yeah, like if we would look at this, we would say that there is actually something of who God is in each of us.
Yeah.
And we need to affirm that. And the other part of that is people didn't feel judged or rejected.
Yeah.
That he met people where they are at. And I think if we're talking about faith, it's easy to build yourself in this world, a platform, to stand on that platform, to shout loudly at people, instead of quietly building connections and making space for people in your lives. And yet that is what we see in the life of Jesus here. And I think that is powerful, that if you want to make an impact in your local community, there's a lot of people queuing up to say, listen to what I have to say.
Yeah.
It's much shorter queue of people who are saying, I'm willing to listen to you.
Yes.
I'm willing to make space. And I think as we look at the example here, Jesus finds this guy, he's named Levi, son of Alphaeus, or Matthew, and he's going about his business. He's sitting at his work desk. He's probably got a soldier here, and a soldier here, and he's collecting money, fresh as the fishermen sell their fish from beside the lake. And he goes, oi, that fish, we need a few dollars off that fish to the government. Jesus walks up to him and he says, oi, come with me. I want you to follow me and be my disciple.
Yeah, he didn't say, you stop doing what you're doing because I don't like what you're doing and I'm going to judge you for it right now and I'm going to do all that. Like he wasn't pointing all of that out first. He was just like, come. And everything else is to follow after that. It's what he did so many times. Like it wasn't get yourself sorted first.
Yeah.
But just come and the rest will work itself out
as
you get to know me and spend time with me.
Yeah. And I think as we look at this, I think initially Levi, this character, would have seeing Jesus' invitation as an interruption.
Yes.
I'm doing this, I'm set, I'm sorted here, and yet Jesus comes in and says, no, I'm inviting you to be with me.
Yeah.
And often in our lives, when we have an encounter with God, it will feel like an interruption. Have you ever had a moment like that?
I have even small moments where I'm like, I would like to sit here with my coffee and my book and just have a moment. But then someone will come along, or I feel that God's going, I want you to talk to this person. So put your book down and look up. And then they're like, can I come and join you? And even just in a small way like that, those kind of interruptions, I thought I was doing one thing and God's like, and then, there's this amazing conversation or someone has poured their heart out and it's been just the timing and the thing that God wanted, but it was and it was fine with me in the end, but it was an interruption because it was 5 minutes that I had to myself. So yeah, I have those often, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I can reflect on my own life, and there's been moments like that. I have a conversation with someone while I'm walking with my kids, and it's easy to go, I don't get much time with my kids, I'm not going to have this conversation and just high and by, but you feel like there's something else going on. And there's a moment where you go, I'll just listen.
Yep.
I'll be here. I'm going to offer some genuine connection as much as I can. There are also other moments where I was happily moving along in a career. I was involved in a training role that I was pretty happy in, and just one morning I felt that God was saying to me, you need to change. And really that changed my whole life. It was an interruption to what I was doing, and yet when we look at this example here, we can see that the invitation of God often feels like an interruption. And it may be an invitation to change career. It may be an invitation to change country, but it may just be an invitation to listen to that person who's in front of you, to take a break from your plans and respond to the child who needs your attention. Because in each of those moments, we are emphasizing the value, the humanity of the person that is in front of us. And I think we're all going to hear this differently. If we're a person who's quite driven, we can say, no, there are interruptions. And yet the challenge is when it is uncomfortable for us, can we follow Jesus and allow these interruptions into our lives? And for others of us, we go, oh, great, that means I don't have to have any plans. Well, I don't see that in this story either. But it's actually as we move through our life with plans, with intention, that we encounter moments of God at work in our lives and in the lives around us. And they can be challenging moments. When we look at the description here, particularly tax collectors, because this character is a tax collector. What do we know about tax collectors back in those days?
Well, like you'd said before, like they were despised because they were working for the opposition.
Yeah.
They were collecting money on behalf of those who were trying to oppress the people. And yet here, is it'd be like one of theirs, what are you doing collecting money for them? Life is hard enough for us as it is. And then they were also probably a little bit dishonest, like you said,
totally.
taking some money for themselves and stuff like that. So
Yeah. And can you imagine what it would be like dealing with a person like that? Dealing with a person who you probably know, they ripped off my friend.
Yeah.
They took more money than they should have from that person.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're telling the truth right now. Like, it's a hard thing, and yet Jesus was comfortable around those people.
Yeah.
And I think that requires more of us, more generosity to be that kind of person. And when it comes down here and it says, Jesus makes this statement, you may have heard this before, this may be fresh to you, but he makes a statement and says, sick people are the ones that need a doctor. Healthy people are fine on their own. Have you ever looked after someone who's sick?
Yeah.
How is it?
It can be difficult, it can be smelly, it can be uncomfortable, it can be very tiring and draining.
All of those things. And yet that is exactly what God invites us into. I used to work with a guy, and he would say, if it wasn't for the people, life would be boring,
Yeah.
you know? And I think it's true. I think if someone met me for the first time, they might find aspects of who I am quite challenging, quite difficult. And yet, that is actually part of the humanity of who we are. That Jesus is not inviting us to step into a mold that will then squash us so that we all look the same, think the same, speak the same. That Jesus says, come. Everyone is welcome. Come and experience true life, as we talked about last week. Come and experience genuine love. And that's the invitation of Jesus for everyone. And that's not neat and tidy.
No.
That is a genuine sharing of life with people who may think differently to you. And because it's a relationship, there obviously needs to be some agreement.
Yeah.
That might be an agreement for the period of a conversation. Hey, let's talk about this. It might be agreement over a cup of coffee. It might be agreement as you share a table in your workplace. It may grow to something more of that. But Jesus invites us to become those kind of people who celebrate the humanity of everyone around us, who hold space for the people in our lives that otherwise can be forgotten. And in those moments, we actually see a new future breaking in. Not a future where we try and dominate people with our little platforms or our perspectives, but a future in which we celebrate the humanity of those around us. And that is a future that takes work. To follow Jesus down this path takes work, and yet it's there that we will actually find ourselves experiencing more of Jesus' love and Jesus' power. And as you're listening to this conversation tonight, you may be sensing an interruption into your life, a sense that there is something that needs to shift, that you may feel that you are too quick to dismiss interruptions. And Jesus is inviting us to literally follow the way that he celebrated people's humanity, the way that he moved through the crowds, that he connected with the forgotten. And if you want to become a more hospitable person, a person who welcomes interruptions, who can celebrate the humanity of those around you, then we're going to invite you just to pray a quick prayer with us now. And that's simply, Jesus, I give you my life. And for you, that may be a statement, Jesus, I give you my agendas. I give you my minute-by-minute schedule. I give you my value of achievement over connection, of completion over compassion. Jesus, I give that to you. Give me your life, that celebrates the humanity, that recognizes the Spirit of God in each person that we encounter. A person who is willing to make space for those who may be a little bit different in their lives. So if that's something that you're willing to do, then we invite you to just pray with us right now. Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. And if that's something that you prayed, we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a DM on our social media channels, or drop us a comment here. And we'd love to support you in the next step that you're taking in your journey to follow Jesus. Thanks so much for tuning in. God bless you.
Bye.
Bye.